Tonight marked the first time that weekly Saturday Night Wrestling has aired on the Turner Networks in nearly 2 decades. Tonight was the debut episode of AEW Collision. We have not had a weekly Saturday Night Wrestling television show in a very long time. We've had specials, but never a weekly television show. And between the music and the graphics, and even down to the ring ropes, even down to having red ropes as opposed to red, white, and blue like we have on Wednesdays, the talent that we had on this show with CM Punk and Andrade El Idolo and Miro, people we have not seen for a very long time, and the new commentary team. All of these things put together, I thought that AEW did a very good job of trying to differentiate Collision from what we see and hear on Dynamite every Wednesday night. And that was very important for them to do. It was one of the things I was hoping for, and one of the things that I was talking about quite a bit heading into this new show. What would they do to differentiate Collision from Dynamite? Instead of it just being like a secondary edition of Dynamite, which is kind of what Rampage feels like, in all honesty. I mean, Rampage, clearly nobody looks at Rampage as being any sort of priority. So it would be incumbent upon Tony Khan, if he wants this show to be a success, to do something to make this show a priority. Well, the biggest thing that he did was to bring back CM Punk. That's why CM Punk is back, because Tony Khan wanted CM Punk for this show. He needs this show to be a success. And so he felt that it was in his best interest to work out something to bring Punk back to the company. And indeed, for the first time tonight in 9 months, CM Punk set foot inside of an AEW ring and did not waste any time in getting people talking and in setting off landmines, because that's what CM Punk is very good at. CM Punk is very good at getting people talking. He's very good at, in some cases, getting under people's skin and pissing people off. And that's exactly what he did on this show tonight in the opening segment of the show, when he came out and he said that he had certain things that he wanted to get off of his chest. They gave him a live microphone, of all places, in the middle of his hometown of Chicago, in front of an adoring crowd at the United Center, to speak his mind and to say his piece. But it was also 17 years, it's hard to believe that it was 17 years ago tonight that I attended my very first Ring of Honor show. And it was the very first time that I got to see Samoa Joe in action. And here we are tonight, 17 years later. And who is in the main event of AEW Collision tonight, the debut episode? Samoa Joe, the Ring of Honor television champion. He was in the main event tonight, tagging with Bullet Club Gold against the team of CM Punk and FTR, CMFTR. That was our main event on this show tonight, a hot main event in Chicago. They decided to go the trios route instead of doing CM Punk one-on-one with somebody like Samoa Joe, which is a match I still hope that they do. Hopefully they don't give up on that. All you have to do is look at the reaction when Joe and Punk tagged into that match tonight in Chicago. You look at the reaction of those fans in the crowd, and you can see this better not be the last time we see Punk and Joe sharing a ring together. I don't care if Joe is part of the Ring of Honor brand or not. That don't mean shit to me. Get him off the fucking show if need be. One thing I did realize in watching Joe in that match tonight, because we really don't see him on Dynamite anymore, right? He's pretty much relegated to the Ring of Honor brand, is how much I miss seeing Samoa Joe on my television screen. So the more we can see him, at least on the Saturday show, the better. I'd rather have him there than anywhere else. But this episode also featured a title change. Now, I thought a few weeks ago, I think I even made the comment that I thought maybe Orange Cassidy would finally drop the International Championship on this show, because maybe they want to save a big title change for the first episode of Dynamite. So maybe that's why this fucker is going through everybody on the roster, and he's beating everybody every single week, and he's kicking out of everything they're throwing at him, because they're waiting until Collision. Well, I got it half right. They were waiting to do a title change on this show. It just wasn't the title that I was expecting. Instead, we had the TNT Championship changing hands on this show tonight. Wardlow is no longer the champion. This poor bastard. Wardlow has once again lost the TNT Championship. Luchasaurus is the new champion, or is he? Didn't feel like it when that segment was over. It felt like Christian Cage was the new TNT champion. We also had the returns of two men on this show beyond CM Punk, and those men were Andrade El Idolo, or as Kevin Kelly called him at one point, Andre, as Jim Ross used to call him. Andrade El Idolo and Miro, neither of whom had wrestled a single match this year before tonight. This was their very first match for both men of 2023. This show tonight had a different energy to it. And I like Dynamite this way. I thought, Dynamite was an excellent show, and there was a lot going on that show. Maybe too much going on. But this episode of Collision, this debut show, had a different energy to it, which is exactly what it needed. As a first episode, I thought that it was exactly what it needed to be. I thought Collision was excellent tonight. It had a little something for everybody. It had the big star coming back in CM Punk with the live promo, and then the big trios main event. We had, a couple of other returns on this show to reestablish talent that we have not seen in a very long time. We had a title change on this show to make it feel like, something big happened on this show. They did have one women's match, a women's tag team match on this show. Skye Blue, the hometown girl, she gets a win in her hometown. And then there were other segments as well. The Acclaimed made an appearance. Of course, the Acclaimed, everybody loves the Acclaimed. So we had a lot of different people represented on this show who were fan favorites in Chicago. But just the energy and the vibe of this show was just different, but in a good way. Now, can they maintain that week after week after week? That I don't know. They had about 9,000 people in the building tonight. They're not going to have 9,000 people in the building in Toronto next week. They'll have a lot more than that for Forbidden Door next Sunday. But the night before, ticket sales for that Collision episode in Toronto are not good. So it's going to be almost apples and oranges, I think, comparing this show to next week and beyond. It'll be very interesting to see as far as, crowd reactions, television ratings, all that kind of stuff. Can they keep that momentum? How does this show do? I hesitate to even venture a guess as to what rating this show would do. If people want to drop their ratings predictions in the chat, I'd be curious what you guys think. I mean, look, if I had to venture a guess, and I don't even know what the sports competition is tonight, I don't know, other than just the normal baseball games and stuff that may be going on. I don't even know if there's a big game or not going on tonight. I think, with the promotion of Punk coming back for the first time in so many months, it's hard to say. I don't want to say a million, but I think they'll be pretty close. I think it'll be in Dynamite territory as far as the numbers that they did. And look, if they hit 1 million, it wouldn't shock me. I don't think they will, but I think they'll be close. But again, week 2, week 3, week 6, that's what becomes important for AEW. Can they keep this momentum going? Can they keep an audience for this show where it doesn't become Dynamite's little brother? Because tonight it felt like it was on the level of a Dynamite. And that was the most important accomplishment. Don't make this show feel like another Rampage. Make this show feel like it's another Wednesday. The whole Raw and SmackDown thing. And I thought they achieved that tonight. The only thing they did not do, the one critique I would have for them, and I think it has to do with the fact that they have Forbidden Door next Sunday. And so it's kind of all eyes on that pay-per-view. We don't even have the full card yet. And maybe they're just kind of waiting to get some real programs going until after the pay-per-view. One of the challenges of doing these interpromotional shows is that some of the native, what I would call native stories for the AEW brand, they take a bit of a back seat for a few weeks until Forbidden Door comes and goes. Maybe they're waiting. They did nothing to set anything up for Collision next week. We got a full preview of what's to come on Dynamite this Wednesday. Not one thing was teased, not one thing was officially announced for Collision next week, other than you assume CM Punk will be on the show. But that's the one thing that they did not do tonight. But this is your official review for the very first episode of AEW Collision here for Saturday, June 17th, 2023. I am the Solomonster. Thank you so much for joining me here on a Saturday night. Usually it's maybe a pay-per-view, but it's atypical to be live with you here on YouTube on a Saturday night. We got Mondays, we got Wednesdays, we got Fridays. So now I'm with you on a Saturday, at least for tonight. I'm with you on a Saturday. So thank you for joining me. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If we hit 450 likes on this video tonight, we will do our Be the Booker segment later on in the stream. I know you guys love that so much. Look who it is. Holy shit, I have not heard that super chat in a very long time. Is that Robert with a $75 Mantar? That is the Mantar super chat. Oh my God, I have not heard that Mantar roar in I don't even know how long. Hey, Robert, thank you, man, for the $75 drop here at the very beginning of this stream. See, that makes me happy on a Saturday night. And Zizu, gifting a channel membership. By the way, channel memberships are open. You can become a channel member. You can gift memberships, which are assigned randomly to people on the channel. If you're in a very giving mood, that is open. So please consider doing so and joining our little member clique, our little family here on the channel. You get access to some of these special emojis that you see in the live chat. So let's talk about this Collision show here at the very beginning, and then we'll get into the stuff I'm sure you all are waiting for. You won't have to wait very long since it was the opening segment. But the opening theme song for Collision tonight was Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting by Elton John. They went old school with the theme song. It honestly, very Saturday Night's Main Event-esque. If you remember the early days of Saturday Night's Main Event on NBC, where they had real music that they used to open the show, it kind of reminded me of that a little bit. So I think that's a fine choice as far as the theme music is concerned. Kevin Kelly and Nigel McGuinness were announced as the weekly announce team. They are going to be the announce team for Collision going forward, which I was very happy to hear. Kevin Kelly, in my opinion, is the best play-by-play personality right now in pro wrestling. Kevin Kelly, the work he's done in New Japan, and even before that when he was doing commentary for Ring of Honor, but the work that he does on English commentary for New Japan Pro Wrestling is great. I'm a big Kevin Kelly fan. I think he's the best there is right now. Active play-by-play man. He and Nigel McGuinness have experience working together from their Ring of Honor days. And I thought Nigel McGuinness was fantastic in NXT when he was working with Mauro Ranallo. So you put Kevin Kelly and Nigel McGuinness back together, and that's a winning combo. The one thing I was hoping Tony Khan would not do is put Excalibur on commentary, because Excalibur, again, I associate his voice with Dynamite every single week. We hear Excalibur all the time on Dynamite and on the pay-per-views and on Rampage. You got to give the guy a break. You want to differentiate this show, you need a different voice. Kevin Kelly is the perfect voice for this show because it ain't Excalibur. And again, Kevin Kelly is awesome at what he does. Jim Ross was also announced when they made they put the press release out or whatever. They made the official announcement on Twitter, technically. I don't know if there was an actual press release, but they said that Jim Ross would be joining them as a special color analyst. Jim Ross joined for the main event only on the show, which was the right thing to do because Jim Ross was not in the best of shape tonight. Jim Ross posted a photo, might have been earlier, I think it was earlier this morning, he was sitting at the airport, he had a black eye. Very bad black eye. Said that, I guess he fell, but he was on his way to Chicago for the show. And it's troubling because it's not the first time that he has fallen. That's what he claims. He falls. And he's posted pictures before of these bad black... This is like the second or third black eye that he's had. And it's usually just the eye. It's not like, he's posted pictures before where he looks like he got in a fight or, he mouthed off to somebody and they smacked him, they smacked him in the head or anything. So, he's getting older. I guess maybe he's losing his balance. I don't know. It's concerning. But beyond the black eye, which they didn't show on television tonight, he did not sound good. And he admitted later on that he was under the weather. Clearly, he was under the weather. His voice was very hoarse. It was very hard to understand sometimes even what he was saying. And he apologized for it. I felt bad. He apologized for it. But he said, I wouldn't miss this for the world. And he made the trip all the way to Chicago, and I know he's still having lingering issues from the radiation treatment on his ankle, so it's painful for him to fly. So for him to get on a plane and fly, he really has to want to go somewhere. And he flew in, and look, I mean, he's a tough SOB. I respect him for doing that, but he was not at his best tonight. And maybe it would have been better off for him not to be on the show, but again, he flew in for it, and so apparently it seems like they'll just use him either for main events or just for the occasional special match, which I think is fine. But yeah, JR was in rough shape tonight. I felt bad for him. As far as the set and the stage, it's all screens. I know some people were hoping, because the logo is obviously an homage to the old original WCW Monday Nitro logo from back in the day, that the set maybe would mirror something similar to what Nitro. I was hoping the same thing. I was always a fan of that old Nitro stage. And I was kind of hoping, well, they copied the logo, and so maybe they'll copy the stage setup. They didn't do that, but I thought the stage looked fine. It looked cool. It has the screen. They have the Collision logo on a screen right above the entranceway. I still think it looks nice. And again, it's different enough where I think it works. But the show opened with CM Punk, shaved head and all, with a new shirt that has Larry the Dog on it, coming out to Cult of Personality and the expected ovation that you would expect here from the hometown faithful in Chicago. There was never any doubt what reaction Punk was going to get coming into this show. The question is more so, what reaction is he going to get next week in Canada and on this Canadian swing that they're about to go on, right? That's Kenny Omega country. That's the bigger question. In Chicago, though, you knew that CM Punk was going to come out and he was going to be beloved. And he was. And there weren't as many people in the building tonight as there were for the first dance when he debuted 2 years ago. And they had 15,000 people in the building. Punk hadn't been seen basically in 7 years. That was a different situation. The second time will never be as good as the first. Although maybe if you're a fan of the Godfather series, maybe you disagree. But he came out and got a great reaction. He had a pair of boots. I thought they were sneakers at first, but I guess they were boots. Tied together, draped around his neck. And he was carrying a red sack that clearly had something in it. When he got in the ring, he set the bag down on the mat. First thing he did when Punk took the microphone was he removed the AEW mic flag. The box around the microphone, the logo box. He removed the mic flag and chucked it aside and just had the naked microphone in his hand. He said, I don't know if you guys heard, but I'm tired of being nice. Okay. So right off the bat, right? The very beginning, opening words of this promo, you could already tell where we're going here. You could already tell where this is headed. He said he was gone 10 months with a ruptured triceps tendon that was torn right off the bone. He's still here, though, and as long as he is, it's the professional wrestling business. He says it's a business for grown-ups and it's not a popularity contest. If it was, he probably would have lost that a long time ago. Yeah, I would say so. I think there were probably a number of people in the wrestling business who would have eliminated Punk probably in the first round. He said they were going to talk about the future, but first they have to talk about the past. He said that if someone had told 15-year-old him that he would sell out legendary venues all over the world, he's not sure that he would have believed that person. He said he's tired of being nice, and he told the crowd, "Tell me when I'm telling lies." That was his go-to line for the remainder of the promo. He said that at least 4 or 5 more times. Tell me when I'm telling lies. He said that he got to where he is by riding the wave of smart, passionate wrestling fans. He said he's never compromised and he's been unapologetic. He said he couldn't have done it without all the fans, and that there are some people who hate him for the very reasons that all these people tonight love him. They hate him for that very same reason. He said, "I am the truth, and the truth is painful." And at that point in the promo, we got a "fuck the elite" chant that broke out throughout the United Center. Punk pointed to various signs in the crowd that people were holding up. There was one sign that called him a hero. There was another sign that said Pepsi Phil. There was another sign that said CM Junk. He said, that's cool. Fans can do that. Then he said that David Zaslav, for those who don't know, that is the head of the network. That is the head of Warner Brothers Discovery. David Zaslav is the one who Tony Khan has said directly ordered 2 hours of wrestling on Saturday nights. The reason we have Collision is because that's what the top dog in the company wanted. The head of the network said, I want 2 hours of AEW, and Tony Khan said, yes, sir.
It's the amazing Gunther. Jerry Lawler loves Gunther the Magnificent. All hail Gunther.
Down Bad, coming in hot with a $50 super chat. A Down Bad, thank you, man. I appreciate that very, very much. Getting some Gunther action in early here on the stream. Again, I'm going to be reading all your super chats later. What did you think of CM Punk's return tonight? I want to hear from you guys, too, on where you stand on the whole CM Punk. A lot of very conflicting opinions about Punk. So I want to hear from you guys. But David, Down Bad, thank you. But again, David Zaslav, he name drops him. He said that he calls him One Bill Phil. David Zaslav calls CM Punk One Bill Phil because he's the genuine article in a business full of counterfeit bucks. Not being very subtle about that one at all. And the crowd was eating this up. The crowd went nuts for that line. And he declared the king is back, and he added that he has a lot of things to get off his chest. He said that he had a question, and then he would get out of everybody's hair. He said that he'll always speak truth to power and will never compromise. He mentioned that there are people who feel he owes them an apology. And so he said, here's your apology. He says, I'm sorry that the only people softer than you are the wrestlers you like. Tell me when I'm telling lies. And again, the crowd cheered for CM, but they cheered for their returning hero here in this segment. These were his people here in Chicago. At that point, he picked up the red bag that he had brought down to the ring with him. He picked it up, and he said the last time the fans saw him, he held what was in this bag above his head. He said it's not because he deserved it, it's because he earned it. He said that it's not his because he had the best dog collar match. It's his because he won that dog collar match. Punk said that it belongs to him until somebody can pin him for it or submit him for it. Now, he never opened the bag and actually took out the belt that was inside. Obviously, he was referring to the AEW World Heavyweight Championship that he beat Jon Moxley for it all out last September, the same night that he tore his triceps and then, ate some bad muffins and lost his mind. So he never actually removed the belt from the bag, but pretty much told us what was inside the bag. Punk then held up the boots that I mentioned he came out to the ring with a pair of boots that were tied together, draped around his neck. So at that point, he picked up the boots, and he said that he assumed there were people who hoped that he would set these boots down in the middle of the ring and he would walk off into the sunset, right? Never to be heard from again. He said that until there is somebody in this company who can fill those boots, they belong on his feet. Tell me when I'm telling lies. And then he dropped the mic. And then he looked into the camera and he asked, what's in the bag, Max? Well, that's one way to get people talking, is to put a live mic in the man's hand for the first time in 9 months when he's got shit to get off his chest. And people are gonna listen. That's why Tony Khan put CM Punk in the opening segment of this show with a live microphone in his hand, because he wanted to reel them in and hook them in from the very first segment of the show. It was smart. You couldn't open this show any other way. It's the same way they opened the first dance when Punk debuted. They didn't waste any time. They hit Cult of Personality, out came Punk, and they gave him all the time in the world that he needed to say his piece for the first time in 7 years. This was the first time in 9 months that CM Punk has had a television platform in front of however many people were watching, whether it was 1 million people tonight or 500,000 people. This was his chance to go out there for the first time since Brawl Out and say what it was that he was going to say. It's the kind of promo that, for your first show that you want because it will get people talking. The question is, of course, at what cost? That's for Tony Khan to worry about. It was Tony Khan's decision. He knew what he was doing when he brought CM Punk back. And so that's for Tony Khan to worry about now, bringing Punk back when all that bullshit with the Elite and the Bucks and everything is still unresolved. Bringing him back and look, that's going to be his issue to try to deal with now. Right? That's not any of our problems. That's his problem. And no, I don't believe that the issues have been resolved between these parties. I don't believe that because CM Punk was taking little pot shots and digs at the Bucks and the Elite tonight, oh, it must be a work, or, well, I guess they must have resolved their differences. I don't believe that is what this is at all. I don't think Punk taking shots at them means that everything has secretly been worked out between all the parties involved. Is it possible? Sure, it's possible. Yeah, of course. It is possible that things have been worked out and they've kept it hush-hush. I don't believe that's what this was. I don't believe that. Now, I will say, though, for their part, if you look on the Young Bucks Twitter page, they after the segment was over, they already went and updated their Twitter bio, and they changed it to say, if it were 2018, we would already have a counterfeit Bucks shirt available on Pro Wrestling Tees. And they put a laughing emoji at the end. So already poking some fun at what CM Punk had to say about them tonight. But again, that's not what this was. And look, as you know, if you've paid attention to anything that I have said, I have been critical of Punk for how he acted at the media scrum. And in that ESPN story that dropped yesterday, which was much ado about nothing, for all the bullshit on Thursday about, CM Punk said some stuff in this interview that's going to really turn heads and ruffle feathers. Yeah, I read that whole story in the interview with Punk, and it was a whole fucking nothing burger. But in that ESPN story, one of the interesting parts of that story, and I will talk about the interesting parts of that on the podcast tomorrow, he did admit that he apologized to Tony Khan, as he should have, because that was embarrassing what happened at that media scrum last year. So he says that it's the first thing he did. I don't know when, but he apologized to Tony Khan for what happened. But when the Elite came back, I want to point out something, and the reason why I'm okay with Punk taking the little digs that he did tonight. Think back to when we had that episode of Dynamite in Chicago. And I don't remember if this was the first, it might have been the first night back for the Elite. I'm trying to remember if that was the first match that Omega and the Bucks had when they came back from their suspension, their unofficial suspension. But it was the episode of Dynamite in Chicago where the Elite were mocking Punk. There was a point in that match where Matt Jackson went to do a buckshot lariat and he botched it. Right, making fun of Punk botching the buckshot lariat twice in his match with Hangman Page at Double or Nothing last year. Kenny Omega bit Pac's arm during that trios match. At the time, I thought it was great. I thought it was a great way to lean into the heat that they had to know they were going to get when they walked out there in Chicago in enemy territory for the first time coming out of what happened in September. They had to know that walking out there, they were going to get booed. And so they decided to have some fun with it and lean into it and use it to generate even more heat on the show. And I thought it was fun. I thought it was great. And I said at the time, as long as it's a one-night thing, it's different if it becomes a weekly thing where they're kind of needling this guy and they're making the situation worse. But in a vacuum for that one night, I thought it was fine. Well, tonight, CM Punk got his receipt. And I'm not saying it was a receipt for that one night. I'm just saying this was CM Punk's chance now to go out there and needle them right back. He went out there tonight, and it was fair game. You know, what's good for one is good for the other. So him coming out and making the comment about the counterfeit Bucks and people being soft. We're not stupid, right? We know who he was referring to. It was very clear who CM Punk was referring to in this segment. And as long as it doesn't become a regular occurrence where he's going to go out there and make things worse by making these comments every single week, he went out there tonight. He got it out of his system in front of all of his hometown fans. He got to say whatever it was that he's had bottled up now for the last 9 months. And he got off some good shots, too. Nobody ever said that CM Punk wasn't a great promo. He got off some good lines on them. But if the Bucks can do what they did in that match in Chicago last year, they can do that. You know what? CM Punk can come out and do what he did tonight. And you can't cry foul and you can't say, well, that's not fair. You know, CM Punk going out there and being... The Bucks did it first. Bucks did it first. All CM Punk was doing was going back out there and reciprocating. And the crowd in Chicago ate it up because he knew they would. This might not work in front of a crowd like Toronto next week, but in Chicago, it worked. But in one promo, CM Punk set up feuds with the Elite, potentially, and with MJF. I don't know that we're ever going to get the first one. I think eventually we will. But the second one, and him carrying around, if that's going to become a thing where every week maybe he's got the belt with him, I don't know. I see Paul Heyman on SmackDown still carrying around the WWE title and the Universal title. Is CM Punk going to carry around the old AEW World Championship every week, or is he just going to make reference to it? That I don't know. But clearly, this is going to pay off at some point in a match between the two of them. For now, it looks like we're going to have dueling champions on both brands. We're going to have CM Punk as the sort of uncrowned AEW World Heavyweight Champion on Saturdays. And then we're going to have MJF as the official AEW World Heavyweight Champion, appearing, I guess, mostly on Wednesdays. It's not a bad idea. Punk never did lose the title. You know, he got hurt. He was stripped of the championship, just like the first time, though. He never actually lost the title. You know, although he did come back and lose on that one episode of Dynamite to Jon Moxley. But you know what I mean. He got hurt. He got, you know, however many months off it was. He was never beaten. He was never pinned. He was never made to submit for the championship. And so now, whether it's going to be all in or it's going to be all out, or maybe they want to drag this on and delay it until next year. Because all in and all out are not that far away. We're talking about a couple of months. This whole thing with Punk and MJF, if they keep them apart and on separate shows, they could each take shots at each other on television in their promos every week, but you keep them apart until even early next year, or Double or Nothing next year, and then you build to a match between CM Punk and MJF, and I think that's fine, so long as Max goes over when they have that match. Because if we get MJF against CM Punk again, which would be, I guess, part 3, MJF should go over in that match. CM Punk does not need to be the AEW World Heavyweight Champion. Tony Khan got burned twice when he put the belt on Punk. And Punk is already in a position where he does not need the title. Punk himself, according to Dax Harwood, told Dax, I didn't want to be the champion in the first place. I did it because Tony Khan wanted me to, because Tony Khan felt for his company at that time it would be good business to put the belt on CM Punk, so I said fine. So even Punk seems to understand he does not need to be the champion. So long as that's the end result, I'm cool with it. But Punk going in there and just beating MJF and being the champion again, that I think would be a mistake. So with that out of the way, at that point, it was time for the TNT Championship to be defended. It was Wardlow putting his title on the line against Luchasaurus, who had Christian Cage in his corner. There was some fun, big man spots in this match. Wardlow powerbombed Luchasaurus. Christian grabbed the chair, which distracted Wardlow for a moment. Wardlow went back to Luchasaurus, who grabbed him and chokeslammed him for a near fall. Luchasaurus, he tried to hoist up Wardlow, who slipped out and countered into a power slam. It looked like he was trying to hold him up, almost like in a tombstone position. He was trying to do something, but it was very clear he couldn't, like he was trying to get him up in position for something, and he just couldn't do it. So finally he sort of gave up and he just power slammed him. Wardlow then went up top. He hit a gigantic swanton, which will never not be impressive to see Wardlow just soaring through the air the way he soars so high and so far through the air. He almost completely misses his opponent. He's just gliding through the air. So after that, he got up, he lowered the straps. And at that point, Christian climbed up on the apron yet again. Wardlow took the bait like an idiot. But he did dodge a charging Luchasaurus. So Wardlow is standing over Luchasaurus now on the ropes in the corner. He's throwing punches down at him until the dinosaur slips through his legs. Why is Solomonster a Punk hater? Why does he hate Punk so much? What did he ever do to him? Hey, JM, thank you for the $40 CM Punk Super Chat. JM with the 40 spot. That's one of the new ones. They're all listed in the description down below. You'll see the word new next to the new ones, by the way. There's another new one on there, too, right below that one. But thank you, JM. So he slips between Wardlow's legs. Wardlow is still standing on the middle rope. Luchasaurus has grabbed the referee, though, to divert his attention. Christian Cage grabs a camera from a clearly planted photographer outside the ring. He walks up the steps and he smashes it over Wardlow's head. And Luchasaurus at that point drives Wardlow face first into the mat, and he pins Wardlow to win the TNT Championship for the very first time. After the match, Christian stood on the middle rope and he posed with the TNT title like he had just won the title himself. Then Luchasaurus put Christian on his shoulders, and Christian is celebrating again, holding up the championship like he just won the belt. Christian celebrating like that I thought was fucking great. I mean, he had like this crazed look in his eyes, and he's holding that championship up. I thought that part of it was great. Look, I said last month, before Christian had his title shot, I said I wouldn't mind whether it's, a double or nothing or sometime later on. I wouldn't mind Christian Cage getting a heel run with the TNT title. I could dig that. But now instead we have Christian who could be the champion vicariously through Luchasaurus. He doesn't have to technically be the champion, but he can act like he is. Now there's always the possibility that Luchasaurus could pull an Andre and DiBiase, and he could surrender the title to Christian Cage and make Christian the TNT champion, or Christian could force him to surrender the title to him. I don't even think you really need to do that, though. I think it would actually be more entertaining if Christian just sort of lived vicariously through Luchasaurus and pretended that he was the champion. And he would have Luchasaurus defended for him almost like as his surrogate. I think that makes it more entertaining that way. So this is great for Christian. It's not so great for Wardlow. And when this was over, I sat here and I wondered to myself, I go, did Wardlow fuck Tony Khan's girlfriend or something? Did he give her a powerbomb symphony? What did this guy do to deserve the type of booking that he has had over the past year? I can't remember anybody in this company. Now, there are people who have just dropped off the fucking radar completely. Look at Miro, right? He hasn't wrestled in 9 months. So there are people like that. But I'm trying to say, like, someone who was at a certain level, a pretty high up level in this company on television, where the booking has just dragged them down into the abyss, where they have gone from here, they've gone from, let's just say he was at an 8 and he's been dragged down to like a 4. What the hell has happened to fucking Wardlow over the past year? I mean, the descent has been almost incomprehensible. The booking of this man has been almost incomprehensible. Now, when you win the TNT Championship or any championship, what should happen is that if you're given a run with it, when you're done, unless the whole purpose is just for you to put somebody else over for it, that's different. Yeah, but Wardlow is a young guy. He's a homegrown AEW talent. He's somebody that they should have been pushing from day one, and they were. He could be, he could have been a world champion one day. The goal should be that when you win the championship, when you eventually lose it, you're in a better position than you were the day that you won it. You honestly going to tell me that Wardlow at this moment right now is in a better position on the AEW roster than he was the day that he first won that fucking belt? Tell me when I'm telling lies. Of course not. So I don't know what the hell is going on with him. I don't know, where things went wrong. He wins it, he loses it, he wins it. They'll probably hotshot the belt back onto him pretty soon. I don't think Luchasaurus is going to be TNT champion for very long. I fully expect that Wardlow is probably going to get the belt back. Could be as soon as Forbidden Door. But what does it really mean? I said this when he won the belt the most recent time. So he wins it back again. Who cares? What does it really do for him? It's just incomprehensible to me. Lexi Nair was backstage. She was interviewing Powerhouse Hobbs, who was with QT Marshall. Marshall said that they never said, now Hobbs is here. We never said he would be wrestling on the show. We just had a show up tonight. So he said that Hobbs will be in the Owen Hart Cup tournament, and then Hobbs spoke, and he said that this new chapter in the book of Hobbs will be about redemption. We had the return of Andrade El Idolo from his pec tear, making his 2023 in-ring debut again, or in-ring return, I guess I should say, against Buddy Matthews of the House of Black. So basically, we had Charlotte Flair against Rhea Ripley here in a WrestleMania rematch. Kevin Kelly, now look, I love Kevin Kelly. I just said I love Kevin Kelly as a play-by-play announcer. I just put him over. Kevin Kelly was having a rough time here. He was having a rough time with Andrade's name. First, he called him El Idolo, and then after that, he called him Andre, which is what Jim Ross, for the longest time, Jim Ross, he couldn't get over it. He's Andre El Idolo. So he was Idolo and Andre at two different times here during this match. But Andrade, he got loud welcome back chants from the crowd when he came out and the match started. He worked in the babyface role. Clearly the babyface here of this match. Aubrey Edwards was the referee for this. The same Aubrey Edwards who made her in-ring debut on Rampage last night. She was teaming with Mark and Papa Briscoe against Jay Lethal, Jeff Jarrett, and Karen Jarrett. It was on Rampage last night. So early in the match, Andrade sent Matthews out to the floor. And Andrade performed a cartwheel on the apron into a moonsault. So he moonsaulted off the apron onto Buddy Matthews on the floor. Matthews came back by shoving Andrade into the ring post, and then he tossed him over the barricade. Andrade climbed onto the barricade and hit a Hurricane Rana, but he came up favoring his arm. And Nigel McGuinness and Kevin Kelly pointed out the fact that he landed on his arm. When he hit the floor, he came up again. He was clutching his arms. The same arm, same side that he suffered the pec tear. But he rolled Matthews back inside, covered him for a 2 count. They went back to the floor, where Matthews ran Andrade's bad arm into the barricade. Back inside, Matthews hit a Meteora and got a 2 count, but then he came up clutching his left knee, heading into a picture-in-picture break. Now, during the picture-in-picture break, pretty much the entire break, was Buddy Matthews was being checked out by one of the trainers down in one corner, and Andrade was being checked out by either the doctor or the trainer on the floor in the other corner. And so basically, both of them were selling old injuries. Again, the pec tear, it's in that same area. That's Andrade. Buddy Matthews, he's had trouble with his knee before. So they were selling that they had aggravated previous injuries. That was the story of the match. Matthews went for a power bomb, but his knee gave out. He went for the power bomb again, and again his knee gave out. Andrade then caught Matthews with a spinning back elbow that knocked this guy into the middle of next year. He fucking wrecked him with this back elbow. Oh my God. That's all I wrote here. Oh my God. It's the same thing I wrote in the women's tag team match, and I'll tell you why here in a few minutes, but he wrecked him with this back elbow. So Andrade applied a figure 4 leg lock at that point, or for the finish, he applied the figure 4 leg lock. Matthews, though, as he was getting close to the ropes for the break, Andrade bridged into a figure 8. I wonder where he learned that from. He bridged into the figure 8 to a big pop, and he forced Buddy Matthews to submit. When the match was over, Andrade tried to help Matthews to his feet, and Matthews just shoved him away. And Andrade still offered a handshake anyway. And Buddy was limping over to him. We didn't know if he was going to accept the handshake or what when the lights went out. So when the lights came back on, Andrade still had his hand out, but then behind him in the corner sitting down was Malachi Black, and standing behind him was Brody King. Andrade turned around. He got turned inside out by a Brody Kling. Yeah, he's a Klingon. A Brody King clothesline. And Malachi knelt over Andrade, and the lights went out again to end the segment. This was a fucking war between these two men. You will not find many matches. I mean, I guess in Japan you would, but you will not find many matches that are more physical than what we got here from these two men. This was a war, like a war of attrition here between these two guys in this match. They told a story with the injuries, like the dueling injuries, who's going to be able to survive longer. But Andrade in the end was able to outlast him. It's good to have him back. Andrade is great. Andrade still has not even scratched the surface of what he can do in AEW. He's another one who, wasn't really being used in the best of ways. But then there's been other rumors and stories about him rejecting creative pitches and stuff. So I don't know where fact ends and fiction begins. There's probably blame to go around on both sides. Obviously, more recently, he's been hurt. That's why we haven't seen him in however many months it's been. Probably been about 8 or 9 months. But now he's back. And I think he's going to be a very big piece, especially when it comes to in-ring. Because you saw, this is the best match on the show tonight, and you saw what this guy can do in the ring. I know what he can do. People who are watching right now, who maybe were fans of his before he even came to WWE and watched his work in Mexico, and he was, La Sombra, you know what he's capable of in the ring. I saw what he did in NXT with people like Johnny Gargano and others, so I know the kind of in-ring performer that he can be. Personality-wise, promo-wise, maybe it's not his strong suit. But in the ring, this guy can go. It's just a matter of programming him with the right person. And as I'm watching this here, they did the tease at the end, and I'm hoping that it's a tease for a singles match, a singles program with Andrade and Malachi Black. That's the match that I want to see. I want to see Malachi Black start doing more singles matches anyway. Malachi against Andrade is what I'm hoping they do. My guess is, and I don't say my fear, but my hope is that they're not just going to do a trios thing, and Andrade's going to go out and fight, Roosh and somebody else, and they'll just do trios matches. I'm hoping we get Andrade and Malachi at some point one-on-one. We got a video package after this of Scorpio Sky, showing his various AEW accomplishments. Skye was shown seated on a couch with a glass of wine, and in the voiceover, he said that he's been watching and he's been waiting for the perfect opportunity. He said that he's the future and the present of AEW, and nobody can beat him because he is on another level. Oh shit, look who it is, everybody. It's the dancing robot. Oh boy, look at this. Look at that guy go. Look at him go. It's the dancing robot JM with the $150 super chat. Holy shit. JM, after the 40 before, drops another 150. I think that's the first dancing robot we've had. That's one of the new ones. Look at him go. Bombs away. It's not Cletus. It's not. I know it looks like Cletus. It's not Cletus. It's Cletus's brother. JM, thank you, sir. Thank you very, very much for that bomb. Man, took me off my game here, did JM. And he's almost left me speechless. And I never shut up, so that's kind of hard to do, to shut me up. But man, you just did. JM, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, I'm going to read your super chat and everybody's super chats a little bit later on. Scorpio Sky, what I was going to say is Scorpio Sky has not wrestled a match in AEW since losing the TNT Championship to Wardlow last July. Wardlow has lost the TNT Championship 3 times since then. Just to go back to the point that I was making before about the fucking booking of this guy. What are they doing? How is this getting him over? 3 times. Since he won the title from Scorpio Sky, he's lost it 3 times, including tonight. But Scorpio Sky's another one. Someone we have not seen in a very long time. He was hurt for a while. I don't think he's been hurt recently. I think he's been healthy, and they've just been waiting to do something with him. And so he's another one now that on this show it looks like is going to have an opportunity to, sort of get a little rebirth, I guess. in AEW. He was injured, but again, I'm pretty sure he's been cleared and healthy now for a while. So it'll be a chance for a new start for him. After a break, Tony Nese and Smart Mark Sterling were standing in the middle of the ring. Speaking of returns, right? It was the night of returns here on Collision. Tony Nese called himself, he said, I'm a personal trainer. He started healing on the audience for being so out of shape. He said that he was shutting down the show so he could lead them all in stretches. When all of a sudden we heard Miro's entrance music, and it was the return of the Redeemer. One-on-one with Tony Nese. Miro caught Nese on the apron. He was performing the old, the Sheamus 10 beats. He got about 7 of them out before Nese cut him off. Nese went for a top rope move. Miro caught him and hit a fallaway slam. And Miro set up in the corner for his finisher when Sterling climbed up on the apron, got punched off by Miro. Nese took advantage of the distraction briefly. Miro no-sold his offense, eventually put him down with a Uranage. And Miro followed up with a big kick, big thrust kick, followed by the game over. Camel clutch finisher for the win. Rest in peace to the Iron Sheik. The Camel clutch won him a WWE Championship back in the day. So Miro wins here with the Camel clutch. And Miro is another one. Again, gone forever. We've joked about Miro. I just stopped caring after a while. You know, it's like I said, you're going to see this guy's face on missing posters, stapled to trees. You know, where has he been? Supposedly, there were creative ideas pitched for him that he rejected, and hopefully he's back for good this time. Hopefully this is not one of those situations where he's back for 2 weeks and then he disappears again for 6 months, because I don't see how that serves him any good. I don't see how that serves the product and the company any good. He needs to be reestablished now as a character on this show. And they just added 2 hours of television now every Saturday night. There's no reason to not have people like this. Miro, Andrade, Scorpio Sky, and others. There's no reason now to not get these guys television time. Powerhouse Hobbs. But they have to be on the show consistently. We had Toni Storm and Ruby Soho. Still no Saraya. She was missing on Dynamite as well. When they came out on Wednesday, I think Ruby had a picture of Saraya on a stick as they came to the ring. So again, it was Toni and Ruby coming out against the hometown girls Sky Blue and the New Japan Strong Women's Champion Willow Nightingale. The Outcasts got up in the face of Sky Blue's mother at ringside. She was in the front row on Dynamite in DC on Wednesday as well. She got spray painted in the face. So Mama Blue got turned green on Wednesday. So Mama Blue was back in the front row. But we had Papa Briscoe last night. We had Mama Blue on the show tonight. We just need someone's uncle now to appear on the show next week. So she slapped both members of the Outcast when they got up in her face this time. That allowed Willow to pounce Ruby into the barricade. And this is the spot I was referring to before when I wrote, oh my God, in my notes here. I audibly gasped at this spot. First of all, Willow came out of nowhere, and she hit her with such force. She sent Ruby what looked like head first. And these are not the thick black barricades like the hockey barricades that WWE uses. These are the metal barriers. She pounced this woman so hard into that barricade. I was shocked that she was able to continue and she wasn't seriously concussed. Maybe she was, and she finished the match anyway. I don't know. But that was a hell of an impact on that spot. So the match broke down into a brawl a little bit later on before Toni Storm locked on the same cloverleaf submission that she beat Sky Blue with on Wednesday. This time, though, Sky Blue crawled all the way across the ring and she was able to make it to the ropes. Blue escaped the Storm Zero attempt before tagging in Willow. Ruby laid out Willow with the Destination Unknown kick before Blue tagged in. Toni Storm hit the hip attack, which also is a pretty devastating looking move. Though I know a lot of you, as you've told me before, would love to be on the receiving end of one of those hip attacks. Easy there. So she hits the hip attack. in the corner to Skye Blue. The Outcast went to go spray paint in Blue's face, but Willow grabbed Storm and sent the paint into Ruby's eyes, and then she tossed the can into the crowd. Skye Blue hit the code blue on Ruby Soho then to score the win in her hometown. So this was a nice moment here for Skye Blue. And I commented on Wednesday how she has really made great improvements from even a year ago when I would occasionally see her. And she wasn't even really appearing on Dynamite at that point. I might see her on Rampage or something. She's made great improvements, and she was over in DC. She was over, obviously, in Chicago, this being her hometown. So it was a nice moment for her. We had a pre-tape video where Ricky Starks officially added himself to this year's Owen Hart Cup tournament. He noted that this was absolutely his tournament to win. From there, we went to another pre-tape. This one was with old Double J, Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett said that he is signed on for a concession stand brawl against Mark Briscoe on Dynamite this Wednesday. 46 years to the day that his family was promoting the infamous Tupelo concession stand brawl. I've talked about that concession stand brawl at least once before. I think it probably was a part of This Week in Wrestling History on the podcast. But I have talked at length about that famous brawl. He says there's going to be no Karen and no Sanjay, only Jeff kicking Briscoe's ass. I'm actually looking forward to this. The Tupelo concession stand brawl back in the day, that was like 1972, I think. Maybe it was a little bit later than 72, but it was a lot of fun. And I am a big fan of when they do like Falls Count Anywhere type matches. So you put Mark Briscoe in there. And look, even an old school guy like Jeff Jarrett. Do I need to see Jeff Jarrett wrestling on television every week? Fuck no, I don't. But I think in this situation, I think with these two guys involved, I think it's going to be fun. I'm actually looking forward to that. So Tony Schiavone was in the ring. We had to have Tony on the show. Tony Schiavone introduced us to The Acclaimed, who came out with Billy Gunn. Billy noted that while he has not been in the game much lately, the trios titles are still very much within their reach. And Anthony Bowens noted that AEW now stood for two things, now that they have two shows. It stands for Acclaimed every Wednesday and Acclaimed every weekend. And the fans cheered. They wanted to scissor in the city that made the Acclaim the people's choice. So all four of them, I said four, including Tony Schiavone, they all scissored each other in the middle of the ring to end the segment. Tony Schiavone looked overly excited to do some scissoring here on this show. I think that Elton John song got Tony Schiavone a little excited here tonight. So then it was main event time. This show, that was the other thing about this show tonight. It's less of an issue with AEW than it would be with, say, Monday Night Raw, because it's just such a fucking slog of a show on most weeks because of the 3 hours. But this show breezed by very quickly. I was just, working on some notes. I looked at the clock during the final, like the second to last commercial break. And I was like, man, it's already, 9:40 or whatever it was. So for me anyway, the show breezed by tonight, which is good. But it was main event time. It was CM Punk and FTR taking on Samoa Joe, Switchblade Jay White, and Juice Robinson, with Jay White and Juice Robinson representing Bullet Club Gold. The Coug says Saturday night is a great night for scissoring. Hey, to each their own. To each their own. I'll let you guys take the lead on that. This is a judgment-free zone here. We had Punk and FTR wearing matching black jackets with a pink, very Bret Hart, clearly Bret Hart-esque logo on the back of the jacket. It says CM FTR and had their likenesses on there. I thought that was cool. Punk was also paying homage to Bret Hart with his tights, black tights, but he had pink stars up each leg. Jim Ross, like I said, he joined for the main event only. He sounded very rough on this show. He had the black eye, but then apparently he was sick on top of that. And, again, at the end of the show here, he apologized, and I felt bad for him. I felt bad for him. Obviously, he wanted to be there. It was a big night for him, the big CM Punk return. And on top of, looking like he cut somebody in line at Starbucks, he got sick. I don't know if he had the flu or whatever. See, that would piss me off, though, I have to say. Like, when I was still working in the office, and I would come in and it was clear that somebody was sick, whether it was a cold or something worse than a cold. You'd hear the sneezing. You just see it in their face, right? And we'd have like a team meeting or something. And I'm sitting next to the person and they're fucking sneezing. They're blowing fucking green goo into the tissue. And I'm like, you motherfucker. Like, show some respect for the other people in this office. Like, I get it if you have a job where you have to be there. Maybe you're a first responder or something, right? You can't afford to not go into work, right? People rely on you. Give me a fucking break. You're working in an office. You clearly are sick. You're clearly going to get everybody else in this room sick. You're sitting next to me. You're not even covering your nose. Fuck you. You used to piss me off, man. I hope JR was at least, maybe he was like, covering up whenever he would cough or something. Maybe there's like a cough button. He would cover his mouth. I don't know. You're feeling sick, man. Just stay home. You gotta look after your health first. It's the problem, man. Sometimes people work too hard. Believe me, I know that feeling. You gotta take care of your own health. So JR was having a rough go of it here, but Punk tagged into the match for the first time. It was about 3 or 4 minutes in that Punk tagged. So I'm Vince McMahon. So the fact that I don't want to work around people who are sick as a dog makes me Vince McMahon. That's the one thing about Vince McMahon that I think I could kind of sympathize with. Anybody sneezes around me, you're gone. That's it. You're finished, buddy. There's no sneezing in my company. You never heard me sneeze here on one of these streams, right? There you go. So Punk tagged in for the first time about 3 minutes in. And he and Dax Harwood, they were passing Juice Robinson to Cash Wheeler, who slammed him from the middle rope. Punk covered him for a 2 count. Punk was motioning for the GTS, but Robinson scurried off into the heel corner. And when he did, Samoa Joe tagged himself into the match. And I thought, here we go. Here we go. This is what I've been waiting for. This is what it's all about. This is what people in this building tonight came to see. Crowd was buzzing for this. Back in the ring together for the first time in almost 20 years. I believe the last time before tonight that these men were in the ring together was some sort of multi-man match, probably in Ring of Honor in 2005. Right? It could have been, maybe it was TNA. Was it TNA? It was either TNA or Ring of Honor. But anyway, it's been almost 20 years since Punk and Joe shared a ring together. Even longer since they had their last singles match together. So they start jawing at each other, talking shit. Nobody talks more shit than Samoa Joe. I mean, just when they zoomed in on him and he's talking smack to somebody, man, fucking Joe's awesome. I miss seeing Joe on television. I really do. So the crowd chanted, holy shit, before they even locked up. Joe pushed Punk back into the corner. He blasted him with 3 big chops that would probably make Gunther blush. Punk tried to return the favor, but Joe no-sold his chop. Kevin Kelly said that it had been 6,581 days since Punk and Joe were in the same ring. So there you go. So as he says this, what do they do? With Punk and Joe in the ring together for the first time in 6,581 days, they cut to a picture-in-picture. Are you fucking kidding me? I know that AEW, they don't have control over when the network wants them to go to break, but of all the fucking times for you to go to a picture-in-picture, you got to do it when Punk and Joe just tagged in. Really? So Joe worked over Dax Harwood coming out of the break. Wheeler eventually tagged in, got a sunset flip on Juice Robinson for a near fall. Punk tagged in. He joined Cash in performing the old demolition finish on Robinson. That's the assisted elbow drop across the knee, which led to a near fall, heading into yet another picture-in-picture break. So the heels regained control during the break. They isolated Cash Wheeler. Wheeler inched towards his corner. He dove. He tagged in Punk, who put Jay White down with a neck breaker. He glared at Joe before hitting Jay White and Juice Robinson with knees in opposite corners. Punk bulldogged White while hitting a clothesline on Juice Robinson at the same time. Punk set up for the GTS, but Jay White gouged his eyes. And Punk ended up putting White down and went up top, but Robinson crotched him on the top rope.
Amazing Gunther.
Look who's back again for the second time tonight.
The Magnificent. All hail Gunther.
It's the amazing Gunther. And it comes to us from our friend Drew Johnson. Drew Johnson is with us tonight. I know Drew is a big CM Punk guy. Big CM Punk guy. Hey, Drew, let me ask you a question, man. You must be very conflicted because I know you're a big Shawn Michaels guy. But CM Punk was donning the Bret Hart gear tonight. You know, CM Punk was not in the ring doing the Shawn Michaels sexy boy pose. He wasn't dancing in the fucking assless chaps. He wasn't doing, pulling the earrings off and doing all the bullshit that Shawn Michaels used to do. So you must feel very conflicted right now. He's not representing your boy. He's representing my boy. How do you feel about that? Jay White put Punk down with a Uranage slam for a near fall. He signaled for Blade Runner, but Punk avoided it and put White down with a clothesline. Punk tagged out. Harwood set up White on the ropes, and we got the Power and Glory I love this combo. The Power and Glory Powerplex combo from Dax and Cash, followed by a top rope Punk elbow drop. I had forgotten how ugly those top rope CM Punk elbow drops were. I was going to say Shawn Michaels-esque, but I feel like that would be doing a disservice to Shawn Michaels by saying that. Punk had the pin. Robinson, though, pushed Harwood onto the pile to break it up. So it came down to Punk and Joe. They were slugging it out in the center of the ring until Jay White blindsided CM Punk. At this point, it broke down with everybody. Punk and Joe were still legal. Punk caught Joe with a knee in the corner. Joe came back with a coquina clutch, and he had it locked in pretty tight. Juice Robinson was holding back one of the members of FTR on the floor, Jay White. I think it was Cash, and Jay White was holding Dax Harwood, preventing him from getting inside to save CM Punk. Cash, though, was able to break free. He knocked Jay White to the floor. That freed up Dax, who finally went over and broke up the coquina clutch on Punk. FTR hit Robinson with the Shatter Machine. They caught him out of nowhere with it, and then Juice stumbled into a GTS from CM Punk, the first GTS in 9 months, which allowed Punk to pick up the win for his team. This was a hot main event in front of a hot Chicago crowd, 9,000 plus at the United Center. And I hope it is not the last time that we get to see Punk and Joe in the ring together, because we need at least a singles match. If not a proper program, which is what I would prefer because I want the promos to go along with it. At least a big match between CM Punk and Samoa Joe. Tonight was a little taste of what those two could deliver in the ring. We need more. There's got to be more between those two. Juice Robinson, though, he was the easy fall guy in this match. He was the predictable fall guy, because CM Punk coming out of this match now, he has multiple people that he can work with. He's got Jay White, right? The rumor is that he's been impressed by Jay White's work. He has handpicked Jay White as somebody he would like to work with. Well, you're not going to have him pin Jay White in this match. So they protected Jay White to the extent that he didn't take the losing fall. You could do Punk and Jay White. Punk and Samoa Joe, I just said, we have to get Punk and Joe. You couldn't have Punk beat Joe tonight. If anything, if it was one-on-one, I would have had Joe beat Punk to keep that whole story alive, that Punk has never been able to beat Samoa Joe one-on-one. And eventually he will. That's why I think a program where Joe wins the first match, just to kind of prove to him again, you can't beat me, and then Punk comes back and beats him. So you got Jay White as one potential opponent. You've got Samoa Joe as another potential opponent. And of course, MJF is going to obviously take issue with Punk claiming to be the champion. So in one night, they have set up at least 3, not counting the Elite, at least 3 potential opponents for CM Punk here on his first night back. And look, CMFTR against all 3 members of the Elite, Omega and the Young Bucks, that would be the match to do down the road. Will it happen? It sounds like that ultimately is going to be up to the Young Bucks. That's going to be up to the Young Bucks. My guess is that, yes, it eventually happens. because this is professional wrestling. And if there's one thing I have learned over the years, it is to say never when it comes to situations like this. So if I sit here and I tell you that that match will never happen, that is bullshit. Nobody can say that in wrestling, because whether it takes 6 months, a year, 2 years, feelings soften, I think the match will eventually happen. The question is, by the time it happens, are people going to care about it, right? People care about the match now. That would be the hot match to do, for example, at Wembley Stadium. I don't see these issues being resolved before Wembley Stadium. So I'm pretty sure we're not getting that match at Wembley. But let's say the match happens a year from now. Are people going to care as much? You know, when it comes to things like that, time is of the essence, and I'm not sure if the interest level will still be a year from now what it might be today if they were to do that match. The reaction to Punk in Toronto next week is going to be very interesting. I did mention it's Omega country. Omega's from Canada. Omega is obviously part of the Elite, so you wonder how much that might factor into things. I'm sure Punk will be cheered, but again, to what extent? It won't be like it was tonight. And how is it going to be for the rest of the Canadian tour? We just so happen to be going into a period where they're going to go up north and they're going to be in Canada for like 3 weeks. So, you know, the timing in a way is not ideal for someone like Punk if he's looking to come out and get a positive response from the crowd. Maybe he will. Maybe he'll be like Hogan in Canada. Every time he would go up there, Hogan was cheered like a conquering hero. Even when he tried to murder The Rock, he went to Toronto and he was cheered like a babyface. Until we get to next week, we just don't know. But that's going to be very interesting to wait and see how the fans react to him when he's not in his safe space in Chicago. There was no mention or even a tease tonight of a potential match for Punk at Forbidden Door, which is coming up next weekend. We're a week away from Forbidden Door. And if they want Punk on that show, they're going to have to make the match announcement pretty damn soon. He's not going to be on Dynamite Wednesday, but they can make the announcement on Wednesday. Kenta has been lobbying for the match now for the longest time. Kenta has been on social media. He's been on Twitter saying, I want that bag. Pay me the money, I'll do the match. I want CM Punk, right? The battle of the GTS. Honestly, of all the New Japan talents on that roster right now who are unaccounted for, since people like Tanahashi and Okada already have matches, Kenta is the one that would make the most sense. I don't know if that's a match Punk wants to do. If they don't do the match at Forbidden Door, that means Punk is not interested in the match. Because there's no other reason not to do the match. I can't imagine them not wanting Punk on the show. But there was no tease tonight of any match for him at the pay-per-view. And again, the only thing they didn't do at the end of the show, which would be my only real major knock on the show, and it's not even major, but my only knock on the show, they did nothing to set anything up for the show next week. They mentioned they're going to be in Toronto. They mentioned that it's going to be 24 hours before Forbidden Door, but they announced nothing. It was all just Dynamite on Wednesday. No mention of anything for Collision next week. I would have announced something. I understand that everything's kind of like very laser focused now on Forbidden Door and getting past that pay-per-view, but they really should have announced something for week 2 here on the first episode. Now, I mentioned Dynamite on Wednesday. Currently, this is what the Dynamite lineup for the Go Home episode before Forbidden Door looks like. Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara, and Minoru Suzuki. Murder Grandpa is back. If you remember, they were a team. All 3 of them were a team at Forbidden Door last year. So they are reuniting again this year. They're going to be wrestling AR Fox, Action Andrade, and Darius Martin. Chris Statlander defends the TBS Championship against Taya Valkyrie. Orange Cassidy and Katsuyori Shibata, the reigning Ring of Honor Pure Champion, will team up to take on Daniel Garcia and the New Japan Television Champion Zack Sabre Jr. The Guns will take on the Hardys. Jeff Jarrett and Mark Briscoe will have their concession stand brawl. And there will be what they are calling a blind eliminator tournament to determine a number 1 contender for the AEW tag team titles. Now, I don't know what a blind eliminator is because they did not define what a blind eliminator is going to be. I hear blind eliminator and I assume what they mean is that we simply will not know who the teams are until the match begins. So we're all going into it blind. They're not going to announce that these are the 6 teams that are going to be in this tournament next week. But maybe it's something completely different. Maybe they're going to follow the old WCW lethal lottery formula, and they're going to do some kind of gimmick like they did back then, like Battle Bowl, where they have people randomly assigned to different tag teams. My guess is it's option A, not option B. But again, they didn't specify what they meant by blind eliminators. So we'll just have to assume for the time being that that's what it is. So again, an excellent first episode of Collision tonight. And I think it'll be a very big positive if they can do more shows like the one they did tonight, where it just feels like a different vibe than what we got on Wednesday. And Wednesday was great, but Saturday can be great in a different way. And they got the formula right tonight. Now, there will be no Collision review, just so you know, there will be no Collision review next Saturday, because I ain't going to be here. Because it's summertime, and it's Saturday, and fuck it if I'm going to be here every single week doing this. So there'll be no Collision review next Saturday. What we'll do is we'll resume them the following Saturday, most likely. Because we have the Owen Hart tournament coming up, and there'll be some big matches on there. I think they're doing the finals of the Owen next month, actually, on Collision. At the Saddle Dome, I believe, in Calgary. So we'll pick up with the Collision reviews in 2 weeks. Of course, next weekend is Forbidden Door, so I'll be live with you next Sunday night for the pay-per-view. So just a little programming note there. Let's take a look at the Twitter poll. The very first AEW Collision Twitter poll, and it is a winner. 89% of you have given this show so far a thumbs up, and roughly 11% of you have given this show a thumbs down. That's a pretty damn good score. I don't know if that beats what you guys gave Dynamite on Wednesday, because I think Dynamite on Wednesday was the best score I can remember that show getting in months. But this is up there. This is up there with what Dynamite did the other night, so that's the kind of thing you want to see. You're going to stick around on a Saturday night and watch pro wrestling. I like seeing that it's a 90% approved show. I would hate to sit here and have that flipped and say, man, this show sucked. This show has 30% thumbs up. I feel like I wasted my Saturday night. That would not be good. Well, let's get to your super chats, and we got some big ones in here too. But I want to hear from you guys. What did you think of this first episode? Where do you think that Tony Khan can make improvements, or do you think the show was perfect and doesn't need to be improved upon? There's no such thing as perfect. Always ways to improve upon things. What did you think of the show? What did you think of CM Punk's return? Dr. Scorpio, by the way, where are we on the, I forgot to even check where we are on the likes for Be the Booker. We are, oh my God. The goal was 450. You guys have already blasted past it. We're over 500. Can you believe that we are already over 500? You know what that means. We got to go to 6. Let's see if we can get to 600 by the time we're done here with these super chats. Dr. Scorpio with the $8 says, apparently Collision is airing on TSN 2, but I think it is just for the debut episode. Now I got to wait until 10 p.m. just to watch the debut. I am not getting the awful streaming app. Yeah, I've heard from people that the TSM Plus, apparently the app is like dog shit up in Canada. It doesn't work, or it's just hard to navigate. Heard a lot of complaints from people about that. James Cooper with the $20 super chat. I don't know what I'm saying. I was too busy looking at dead Finn Balor there, the dead demon on my screen. Face down on the mat. James Cooper says, incredible. Glad he's back. Definitely was not subtle with the counterfeit Bucks comment. Glad that we will see MJF against Punk. Need Punk and Joe, Punk and Bryan, Punk and Starks. And some new Japan crossovers like Okada and Tanahashi down the line. Yeah, Punk and Bryan is, I know Punk wants to work with Bryan. He wanted to work with Bryan the first time, and they never had the chance to in AEW, so at some point, we should get that match as well. Naughty Delicious Chicken with Flavor. Kevin Kelly and Nigel McGuinness are a perfect duo. They are quite good together. Very, very good. Thomas Colella. So I was reading a rumor that Nakamura may win the Money in the Bank and cash in on Seth to turn heel. I like it because he would become a Grand Slam champion. I don't like that. I don't like that. Nakamura winning Money in the Bank and cashing in on Rollins, I'm not a fan. I honestly think there's a better chance of Logan Paul getting into Money in the Bank and he wins and he cashes in on Seth Rollins. I think there's a more realistic chance of that happening. Christopher Smith. Andrade against Buddy was strong style, and I loved it. I would not mind if we got a feud for trios between House of Black and Faction. I assume that means Ingobernables. Yeah, again, they could do the trios thing, but I really would rather get Andrade and Malachi in there one-on-one. Tuxedo T Servo. Fun show, but Wardlow needs to get away from titles for a while and get rebuilt if possible. It's not going to be easy. It's not impossible to rehab him, but boy, it's going to take some work, man. There's that whole aura. He had an aura about him, and it's gone. It's just been beaten out of him by the booking. Maybe it went away when Joe chopped off his ponytail. I don't know, man. There's just something missing now that was there before, and now it's gone, and the booking has a lot to do with that. It's inexcusable. Inexcusable what they've done with Wardlow. Dr. Scorpio. I checked my TV guide, and it looks like Collision will be airing on TSN 5 next week, so maybe it might be airing for us after all. I still have doubts. Well, keep me posted, because last I heard anyway, it was not airing on any of the TSN stations beyond, again, TSN 2, I guess, tonight. If that changes, I can let everybody know on the show. But thank you for that. We have Turtlehead. The beginning of this stream are the skulls of all the geeks that didn't like the stream, so we can be the booker. Let's do the right thing, everybody. Well, they must have heard you, because we've already smashed the goal. That's right. Those are the skulls of my enemies. Chris AXC, do you think Jay White would have been in a better spot had he signed with WWE? He already looks like just another background player in AEW. I don't think he would be in a better spot yet. Long term, the jury is out. I don't think that, for example, the spot that he was in tonight in the main event of Collision with CM Punk, would he be in a better position at this moment had he signed with WWE? Probably not. He'd be in the mid-card probably doing something. I don't think he would be in a better spot at this moment. With Triple H, if Triple H had a real hand in his booking and Vince McMahon kept his decrepit claws away, do I think 6 months or a year from now Jay White would have been in a better position in WWE than he might be in AEW? Yeah, possibly. Possibly. But it's not like he would be wrestling Seth Rollins, for the World Heavyweight Championship over the summer. I don't think he would be that high up just yet. Who's to say, by the way, they wouldn't have stuck him in NXT first for a while? That's usually their MO. They bring somebody in, you gotta learn the camera cues and everything. He probably would have made a pit stop in NXT first, knowing that. JS Warrior 19. Solomonster, he says. I thought tonight Collision's show felt different and was a success. We will see how the reaction on Dynamite from Punk and the Elite will go, but I look forward to your thoughts on Collision at the end of SmackDown. Well, JS Warrior, thank you very much. I am going to talk about SmackDown on the podcast tomorrow. I did go back and watch what I missed. Of course, I had the House of Glory show last night. And was bouncing around from commentary to commissioner stuff and cutting promos on fools who can't behave and don't know how to act. So there was a lot going on last night. I did not get a chance to watch SmackDown Live, but I have since gone back and watched the Bloodline segment, and I will give you my thoughts on that tomorrow on episode 813. MH Nova, Solo. It's business time, baby. What do you think of Edge, Christian, and Punk triceps tears? Do you think one cause for it is based off of their off time? I think that ring rust could certainly play a role in certain types of injuries. This particular type of muscle tear, for some people, it could have there could be other reasons behind certain types of muscle tears. In this case, though, it's hard to say. I don't know what kind of training they're doing. If their type of training might be having an impact on why we've been seeing so many of these types of tears. They're also older. You got to keep their age in mind. Punk is mid-40s. Edge is late 40s. Christian also is mid to late 40s. You know, these are not young men anymore. And so you have guys that are older in their mid-40s and above, even 50-ish, who aren't wrestling full-time. They're not getting in the ring every single day, every single week. So yeah, I think more than anything, the combination of age and lack of ring time probably has a lot to do with it. I mean, I'm not an expert on this. I don't want to say that this is the reason why, but I would think that that probably has a lot to do with it. Naughty Delicious Chicken with Flavor. CM Punk's promo tonight was gangsta. Christopher Smith, Wardlow wins the TNT title, and then before 60 days come up, he loses the title. I don't get what happened to Wardlow. Yeah, you and me both. Dennis, LA Knight is, I believe, 39 or 40. He's either 40 or about to turn 40. So he's not quite in mid-40 territory yet. Bobby Lashley, I think, is like 45 or 46. Sheamus, I think, is also in that range. R-Truth is like 50. I don't know how he does it. R-Truth could easily pass for like fucking mid-30s if he wanted to. Although he's actually out right now with an injury too. He tore his quadricep. I think he had complications, had to have another surgery, so he's been out for a while. Sucks getting old. Robert with that $75 bomb from earlier in the night. Happy to catch you live. Thank you for all the hard work. Order a pizza for me this week for yourself. I don't eat pizza anymore, but if I did, I would do that. I would get a round pie. Nothing on it, just a regular round pie. I have not had a slice of pizza probably in about 8 or 9 years. So you'll have to have it for me. But he says, again, thank you for the years of entertainment. Hey, Robert, thank you, man, for that big bomb. I appreciate that very much. Trey Marquis. What's going on, Trey? I feel like we haven't heard from Trey in a while. If AEW do a hard brand split, how would you divide the titles? If you have not previously discussed, thank you for all the great work that you do put in. I would not do a hard brand split. So what would I do on? No. But if AEW were to do a hard brand split, how would I divide the titles? I mean, I would have the TNT title on the TNT show, and I would have the TBS title on the TBS show. Whatever show the TNT title is on, that would be Collision. I would have the international title on Dynamite. But again, I just even mapping this out, I hate this because I just hate I even hate the concept of them doing a hard brand split. But at least as far as those secondary titles go, that's how I would do it. There's just certain things that don't make a whole lot of sense, like having your TNT title on TBS or vice versa. Beyond that, though, you would probably have to have... Well, what I would do, I would have the one world champion who floats. And the idea of having two world champions... And not like the angle that they seem to be doing with Punk, where he's like the uncrowned champion. It's like when Shawn Michaels came back in '93. He still had the Intercontinental title that he never lost. And that led into the WrestleMania 10 ladder match, where he had his title, Razor had his official title, and they hung both belts above the ring. We've seen this angle play out in wrestling before. When Punk came back from the summer of Punk in WWE, right? He left for like 2 weeks. He came back, he had the WWE Championship, even though John Cena had just beaten Rey Mysterio on Raw that night to become WWE Champion. And they went into SummerSlam, one man had one belt, the other man had the other. This is not the first time that CM Punk has done an angle like this, where he's, you know, the uncrowned champion walking around with a belt that he never lost. But if there was a hard brand split, I would have one champion who floats. None of this two world champion bullshit. BCOM see clearly. Stop waking Junior up for me, or JR. I thought say Junior. He put a period after You put a period, it says Junior. I think he means JR. BCOM see clearly, thank you. Rodimus Prime with the 10 spot. Don't know if I'll watch every Saturday, but I enjoy the debut episode. That said, the TNT title, just like Wardlow, is a joke. I will no longer take him serious. Officially done. Look at that. Wardlow has officially lost Rodimus Prime. When you've lost Rodimus, you've pretty much lost your audience. Poor Ray. Everyone's having sympathy in the chat for Rey Mysterio because I brought up that John Cena beat Ray. Yeah, John Cena kind of fucked over Rey Mysterio that night. I'm not going to lie. JS Warrior says Collision ratings guess. He says 860,000. It's hard. It's Saturday night, man. It's hard to predict. I'm going to say that the debut episode of Collision is going to end up doing 960,000 viewers. I think the draw of a Punk return, it won't match what his debut did, which was like 1.1 or 1.2 million, I think, for Rampage. But I think it'll be close to 1 million. It'll fall short. It'll be around 960. That's my prediction. Joseph Brooks with the $9.99. With CM Punk back in AEW, if they really insist on putting a belt on him, do you think they should treat him like they would treat Sting? Meaning tag and mid-card titles are the only ones for him and not the world. Hey, if he wants to win the trios belts with FTR, I think that's fine. I think it's probably inevitable that at some point CM FTR will be the trios champions. I'm totally cool with that. But yeah, CM Punk does not need to be the AEW World Heavyweight Champion. And if he's going to wrestle for the AEW World Heavyweight title, like I said, he needs to lose to MJF. If they do that match, MJF should go over in there. Darth Bullsy. Hey, Bullsy, thank you for the $20. Unpopular opinion, CM Punk got me into pro wrestling, but I really don't care if he's back. Don't get me wrong, he's a big draw and a good storyteller, except that only lasts for so long. I wouldn't even say that's an unpopular opinion. I've seen a lot of divided opinion, honestly, about the Punk stuff, so I don't really think that's necessarily an unpopular opinion. Dan Richards. Toronto prices dropped 75%. Bought a ticket for $60. Well, there you go. You better get in on that. You've been thinking about going to either of the shows. I assume that's Toronto that he means. He said TO. Anyway, thank you very much, Dan, for the super chat. Zachariah Sitchin with the $19.99. Did you see Roman 3 belts on Friday? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Could it be a sign that the undisputed term they're kicking around is temporary until Cody finishes the story, aka the never-ending story at this point? Have you seen that movie? I never saw the never-ending story. I know the movie. I never watched it. I never watched it. Is that the movie with the kid who's riding that big, like, white hairy beast? I don't know what that thing is called, but I think that's from the Never-Ending Story, right? It's like this. It's not a monster, but it's like some fucking wildebeest or something. I don't know. No, I mean, I just think it's just a case of them wanting to make Roman feel like a big deal by still having Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman, it's become his thing to walk out there with one belt on each shoulder, so I just think to them it's part of the overall presentation. They didn't want to take away from that presentation. Makes them feel like a bigger deal, I guess. It's Dragon. Luck Dragon? Is that what it's called? Luck? Why is it called Luck Dragon? I always just called it the White Hairy Beast. Apparently, it's like exactly. Dan says it's like a giant dog thing. It's like, you don't have to say dog thing. It's like a giant dog. It's like a dog thing. Was it like the Thing from the John Carpenter movie where it's like kind of like a dog but not really? It's like a giant flying dog. The Never-Ending Story, by the way, is also the name they've given to Monday Night Raw. Hey, Brian Mack, thank you for the $4.99. Bender McSimpson, with the 1992 Ric Flair Super Chat. Solo, I still think Toni made a big mistake giving Punk his own show. And it would be a bigger mistake if he made Punk a brand new belt for Collision. Well, I agree. I don't think he's making a brand new belt for him. I think, again, he's going to carry around the old belt, I guess, that he never gave back, and then they'll eventually do Punk and MJF. If they make basically a new world title just for him to hold on that show, I think that would be incredibly stupid. But I didn't get the sense that's what they're doing here. Down Bad with that $50 super chat from an hour ago. It's nice to see CM Crybaby back, but he's still a ticking time bomb. The question is, will he explode before or after All In? I think they should be okay until All Out, and then we'll have to just go. All Out will be the 1-year anniversary. Maybe on the anniversary, he'll commemorate it with another media scrum. If I were Tony Khan, I would keep Punk out of the media scrum at All Out this year, just to make absolutely sure we don't have a repeat of what happened last year. Marcus Robinson Johnson, here's 2 non-counterfeit bucks for you. Thank you for my non-counterfeit bucks. I appreciate that very much. Oz and Glorious with the 5. Wild to hear Zaslav reference positively lately regarding AEW after all the negatives lately regarding the WGA strike and the Chris Licht CNN debacle. Collision ruled. Well, I mean, he's the one that greenlit the show, so of course they're going to be positive about him. Dev to Dust says The Departed is overrated. I like The Departed. Delicious chicken with flavor of the naughty variety. Says, non-wrestling related, the big news for Stranger Things 5. Linda Hamilton, a.k.a. Sarah Connor, will be joining the cast. I assume Stranger Things is just kind of in limbo with this writer's strike, right? It's been delayed as far... I don't even think they've started production on the new season, have they? I don't even think they started filming. Oh, by the way, I meant to ask you. I'm doing work earlier, and I get an email from Netflix mentioning Black Mirror. Is there a new season of Black Mirror? Like, I didn't even know there was one being worked on. I'm a big fan of the previous seasons, and I kind of forgot about it. And then I start seeing season 6, Black Mirror. Like, is there a new fucking season? I gotta watch that. I think it's only 5 episodes. I hope there's a new season. I'd be very excited if there is. Dev to Dust, would you banish Vince McMahon to the Videodrome? No, I would banish Vince McMahon to the Impact Zone. Because I just know that would drive him nuts. JM with that $40 CM Punk Super Chat. So there is a new season. I think it's season 6, by the way, Dan. I don't think it's season 5. Holy shit. Well, you know what? There's something new to put on my watch list. I didn't even know there was a new season coming. Now I got something to watch. JM says, I don't care about the backstage stuff, not my business. I just want to watch entertaining wrestling. And guys like CM Punk and Samoa Joe impact that for me. Entertaining show for me tonight. So that is from JM. Deontay Soignier with the $10 super chat. Sky Blue. I was so happy when she won tonight. I love wrestling. Tonight felt amazing. I enjoyed myself tonight. Solomonster, you the best. Number 1 voice and number 1 guy. Love you, man, and glad to be here. I'm glad to have you here, Deontay. I am glad that you are part of our little community here. Bender McSimpson, I'm very much looking forward to a Jay White Hangman Page feud. Random question. What were your thoughts of the Sting Lex Luger tag team? I enjoyed when Luger was clearly just so full of himself. Like they were baby faces, but Luger was just acting very I don't even know what the right word is for it. And I don't know if I don't remember if Sting was even hip to the way that he was kind of acting, but there was this weird dynamic going on between them. This probably would have been around 95 or 96. I enjoyed their team. And I think it was Sting and Luger against the Steiners at the first Super Bowl. They had an excellent match. So I always enjoyed the Sting and Luger team. Donald Ghostin thought Punk's shirt was paying homage to Piper. Well, I mean, it was done in the style of like the old Roddy Piper t-shirt, but it had Larry the Dog on it. So. But his jacket and his tights were not an homage to Piper. They were an homage to Bret Hart. The shirt was Piper. Lady Fire Panda with the $21 super chat. Why are people saying that Solo hates Punk? Well, you see, my child, not only is Solo a professional Punk hater, but Solo is on the WWE payroll, and hating Punk gets him a bonus. Oh, absolutely. You should have seen the last bonus check I got from WWE. I'm sure my bonus checks will be disappearing now once the Endeavor deal goes through, those cheap fucks. I'm hoarding all of my WWE bonus checks. I don't even cash them. I just have them in a pile so I could stare at them and I could admire them and I could show them off. But I don't actually cash them. JM with a $150 super chat. Oh my. That is the one from earlier. Not a new one. Well, that would be amazing, but now this is the one from earlier. JM says, I just want to add that Samoa Joe is a certified professional. He gets more out of just stepping into the ring than most people get out of a 15-minute match. Everything has a purpose and aids in the suspension of disbelief. Tell me when I am telling lies. You're certainly not telling any lies. Samoa Joe, whether it's just him trash-talking somebody, even the way he stares at some of these guys. You know, I mean, he has that just aura about him, that ass-kicking aura. And he's not a big 6'6", 300-pound, monstrous-looking person. But when he speaks, even his promos, right, his voice, like he speaks with such conviction. Everything about him is just he's a walking professional wrestler. He gets it. He does it right. You can believe when you watch him, when you listen to him, you believe. And people would say the same thing about Punk on promos. That's why putting the two of them together in a program I think would be so much fun. Crowfeather Media, MJF against CM Punk could have the same dynamic as Punk against Cena with the two belts. They could even do the match in Long Island. I feel like that match is bigger than Long Island, though. What are you going to do? You're going to do it at... I was going to say Nassau, but I guess now they're running the UBS Arena. Hey, you could, but I mean, if they're going to do MJF and Punk, that's got to be on a pay-per-view at a bigger venue. Dan Richards, Wardlow is Sasha Banks of AEW TNT. How dare you compare Sasha Banks to Wardlow? But yes, Sasha Banks has she has I guess her hands must be wet because every time she gets her hands on a championship, it just slips away. So I guess he's suffering from the same thing that she used to suffer from. Christopher Smith says, question, from the guys who wrestled in New Japan then wrestled elsewhere, Finn Balor, AJ Styles, Kenny Omega, Nakamura. Do you prefer New Japan's theme or their current theme? I think most people familiar with Nakamura's run would probably prefer his New Japan music. Omega, I like Omega's current music, his AEW music. AJ, what was AJ's music? Wasn't it just Bullet Club? Probably AJ's New Japan theme. And Balor, probably his current, I would say. Sean Mack, if you could pick 3 female wrestlers, any company, they had an OnlyFans page, who would you subscribe to? Oh my God. Any 3 female wrestlers, any company? You know, if you expanded that out to like any era, you'd have to have people like Trish on there. I mean, if it was like 1996, you gotta go Sunny. I mean, the idea of that now is like, ugh, it's like, come on. But I don't know. I don't know, man. I gotta think on that. I'm gonna keep that to myself. Delicious chicken with flavor. Wardlow was probably talking bad about the Jaguars. He was talking bad about somebody. I don't know who it was, but clearly he pissed somebody off. Drew Johnson with the 50 spot from earlier. CM Punk is back, baby. Solomonster is the GOAT. Tell me when I'm telling lies. Thank you, Drew. We got Cyrus the Virus. Samoa Joe should make that Fugazi World CM chump tap out in the middle of the ring just like back in the day as he holds both championships. So says Cyrus the Virus. Christopher Smith, who do you think, or who do you pick for top 5 current wrestlers with the best in-ring gear? I don't like doing top 5 lists, especially on the spot. But you know who has pretty cool ring gear? Jacob Fatu. He's got like this, it's just black, but it's got like this pink trim. I don't know if it's tassels or it's not really tassels, but it's, I don't know. Maybe it's the pink and black, honestly. Maybe I'm just partial to pink and black, but that gear is pretty cool. Drew Johnson with a 20 says Brett is a better wrestler. Punk is a better talker. If Brett could talk like Punk, he would be the GOAT. HBK had both in my mind, or my friend. I thought he said in my mind. Yeah, in your mind. So now we're taking the best qualities of one, we're fusing them with the best qualities of the other to create the perfect professional wrestler. I would take. You know what makes Kurt Angle one of the GOATs? I was just thinking about Kurt. Like, oh, I would take Kurt Angle's wrestling ability, and I would take... No. Kurt had everything. Kurt had the in-ring ability. He had the personality and the charisma. He could be funny. He could be serious. His promos were hilarious, right? I mean, he could also be deathly serious, but I can't really say that about Kurt. Like, we should take the best of Kurt. Like, Kurt had everything. Like, in baseball, he'd be like a 5-tool player. Not a lot of guys like that. Kurt was a special talent. Chris Manson. You had to create your own wrestling show. Who is the top guy, girl, and tag team you would build your show around? Again, I don't know. You're asking me to name specific people, picking from any promotion anywhere in the world. I mean, Will Ospreay, pound for pound, in my opinion, in ring is probably the best in-ring performer active in the world right now. I mean, Ospreay is fantastic. So, would he be my top guy? I don't know if he'd be my top guy, but I would want him in my promotion. You know, I would want him working in my main events. As far as girls, there's a lot of very talented female wrestlers in the world right now. There's going to be people who are big into the Joshi scene who will start picking off wrestlers from Stardom, and I'm just not as familiar with a lot of them. I mean, I know who some of them are. But again, I think Mercedes, honestly, I think Mercedes is one of the best female professional wrestlers right now in the world. I would want her on my roster. I would build around her in my women's division. As far as tag teams go, you know, certainly the Usos would be on that list, but there's a lot of talented teams out there. What about the Lucha Bros? Right? How do you not have the Lucha Bros in your company? So, it's hard. It's hard to narrow it down to just one. You can't go wrong, though, with like an Usos, Mercedes, Will Ospreay combo. But are those the three I would settle on? Probably not. If I had time to really think about it, I might make a few changes. But they would definitely be on my short list for sure. Yeah, FTR, right? FTR's got to be on the list. Bianca Belair, Jamie Hayter, Rhea Ripley. How do you choose just one? Bones Jones, Punk against Joe at the next Ring of Honor pay-per-view. What are your thoughts? Punk against Joe at the next ROH pay-per-view. I don't see it. I don't think they're going to want to use Punk in ROH. So, I feel like a match like that needs a bigger audience. You got to do it on an AEW show. You got to save that for a big AEW show. Hoffenheim says, only here to say keep up the good work at 5:53 in Switzerland. Wow, that's very early in the morning. Or is that in the evening? I don't know what time zone you're in. Maybe it is AM. I don't know. 5:53 in the morning in Switzerland is possible. The Coog says Lucha Libre in AEW and Solo on the mic. Keep up the great work. Callis will perish in flames for his blasphemy of El Santo on Rampage last night. Did I read this correctly? Are they now referring to Takeshita as El Hijo del Callis or something like that? It's pretty funny if they are. Silver Tower with the $4 super chat. Always love hearing from our boy Silver Tower.
Too sweet to be sour. It's Silver Tower.
Oh yes. It says poor Wardlow. He might have to leave AEW to save his career. Loved him powerbombing the crap out of MJF. How do you screw him up this bad? Well, look at me. I didn't do it. I actually think if he went to WWE, he would thrive there. I think he would thrive. I think WWE would use him properly, and I think he would excel in that company. EJ Slam just got back from the show, had fun, and security was not letting people wearing Acclaimed shirts to the arena because they did not know what it meant. I did hear about that. I heard there were some people who had Acclaimed signs, like Scissor Me Daddy or whatever, that they were confiscating from people. You would think the company would actually speak to the venue and kind of, let them know. Moise A with the $9.99. I was there live in Chicago tonight, my first live wrestling event. It's great to see Punk come back in Chicago, but I'm a big Samoa Joe fan, so I was happy to see him live. Great show as always. Thank you, Moise. Josiah Ball, thank you for the super chat. We have got Wally Walls with the $9.99. MJF cut the pipe bomb promo after Double or Nothing. That killed Wardlow's push. MJF, I will say this, MJF, that whole fiasco last year definitely hurt Wardlow. So it's not just Tony Khan's booking. The bullshit that MJF pulled last year also hurt Wardlow a great deal. What should have been a very big moment for him was completely overshadowed and basically ruined by all of the drama and all of the nonsense, whether it was a shoot or a work shoot. That did not do Wardlow any favors. Because he powerbombed MJF 10 times in a row, and MJF was on television that week not selling a single one of them. And now MJF a year later is the champion, and Wardlow is just sort of drifting. He's just sort of drifting away. A Fire Panda, Lady Fire Panda, just gifted 5 channel memberships. We now have 5 new channel. I did notice earlier, we are getting kind of close. We're not there yet, but we're getting close to 900. Now, I know some of the gifted ones are probably going to expire in the next week or two, but I checked the numbers earlier. We're getting pretty close to 900 channel members. I don't know if we'll get there before we drop off, but we're getting pretty close. Hey, Fire Panda, thank you. Boney with the $5. With the United Center being AEW's biggest stomping ground, why has WWE never run a show there instead of the Allstate Arena, which has less capacity? I think it just has to do with certain agreements they have. They did run the United Center for the first show there, which was in 94. That was SummerSlam in 94. And that might have been the only event they ever ran there. So they probably have some kind of agreement. It might be cheaper maybe to run the Allstate Arena, would be my guess. I mean, usually these things are about money. So I'm sure there's some financial explanation for it. We've got JS Warrior 19. Never-ending story in Labyrinth. Scared me as a child. Yeah, Labyrinth also kind of freaked me out. Just like Monday Night Raw, booked by Vince McMahon. Near Ruff, our boy Near, says, "You're the man, Solomonster." Hey, Near, thank you, brother. I hope you're doing well. Hope things are going okay. We passed 600 likes. Is that true? That's very cool if we did. I don't have it in front of me right now. Wano Campo. Stop being a CM Punk drinking Kool-Aid hater, says Juan. I'll try. Try my best. I will try my best. Arabian McKnight. I did it again. I can't. You may have to change your name at this point. I keep calling him Arabian McKnight. I don't know why. Arabian Knight 2000. Punk and Joe at Wembley in the main event. That's it. There it is. Book it. Book it. Hey, Dan Richards just became a channel member. Thank you, Dan. Juan says, the Will Ostrich, Kenny Olivier mega fan. Boo. Solo. All right, your gimmick is old. So you got to find some new material. Hoffenheim. Yes, it is morning here in Switzerland. It is now 6:23 in the morning. You should be sleeping. I don't know what you're doing here, man. You should be sleeping. You sound like me now. You got to get some sleep. Juan says, I am drunk as fuck, Solo. Sorry, don't at me, Elite Mar. Well, I figured something was going on up here with you, so. I think he's been sipping too many of those strawberry daiquiris tonight. And Dennis Diaz says, how was the House of Glory show last night? The House of Glory show last night was fantastic. It was an excellent show last night. It was actually our first show on our new streaming home. We're not on Fight anymore. It's the Premier Streaming Network, which is a very growing network. There's a lot of wrestling podcasts on there, in fact. I know Ted DiBiase, I think, has a new podcast on there. So there's a lot of content. House of Glory is on there now. We had Matt Cardona defending the HOG World Heavyweight Championship on the show against Carlito. Carlito has been in the news of late. We'll be talking about Carlito on the podcast tomorrow, and you know, we may have called Carlito's last independent match. I don't know. But we had Elio del Vikingo making his HOG debut, taking on Charles Mason for the Crown Jewel Championship. I came out when the match was over, more bullshit from Charles Mason, so I let him know that our next show, August 18th, is high intensity. He's going to be defending his title against a certain someone. And that certain someone just so happens to be the Mad King himself, Eddie Kingston, returning to House of Glory. I have booked Eddie Kingston one-on-one with Charles Mason. So that was cool. But the biggest announcement of the night that we made concerning our next show coming up on August 18th, we have a very big name coming in, making his House of Glory debut. And boy, let me tell you, as far as me looking forward to calling a match, we have the Ace coming to HOG in August, Hiroshi Tanahashi, the same Tanahashi wrestling MJF at Forbidden Door for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. He may come to House of Glory with the AEW World title in August. You never know. So yeah, we got Tanahashi coming in. I'm very excited about that. It's going to be very cool. Big things going on. Let's see here. Who is that? Gerald? I think it was Gerald. Just subscribed to the channel. Hey, thank you, brother. Arabian Night 2000. Dennis, the service, it's called Premier Streaming Network. It's Premier. There's no E at the end. So if you type in Premier Streaming, you'll probably get the website for it. It's like watchonpremiere.com, I believe is the URL. And you can find everything there, including the show archived. You know, you have to become a member, but shows are all archived there. But Arabian Knight says, the dinosaur is a transitional champion. Who beats him? I would love to see Bandito get a shot. He's rarely on TV, but when he is, always gets a big reaction. He had a big match with Takeshita on Rampage last night. I think the belt probably just goes back to Wardlow. I think they probably play hot potato with it. What it's actually going to do for Wardlow, it's not going to do shit for Wardlow, but they'll probably just end up putting the belt right back on him. Hoffenheim says, I'm now home from a party. Well, I hope it was a good party. Now you get to join this party. Solomonster for Commissioner of the Year. You know, I try to be fair. I'm getting real tired of taking people's shit. Everybody's just doing their own thing. They think they can just run the place and do whatever they want. We got the bookers. The bookers of the company. Brian XL and the Amazing Red. I have a tremendous amount of respect for the Amazing Red. What he's been doing over the last few months, though, is bullshit. And there's no excuse for it. So I had to come out and lay down the law on the two of them last night. I'm going back and forth between that and commentary, and we're doing pre-show stuff. I mean, my God. They're going to run me into the ground. But I do it because I love it. We've got EJ saying, Punk's post-show promo was great. Also, no Bob tonight. He's a ring guy who's become over at these live shows for rock, paper, scissors. So is that like Stu, the cameraman in WWE? There's no Bob. And Juan says, I am the CM Punk Kool-Aid gimmick fan. Solo, I am sorry. Hey, Juan, sober up. I'm worried about you. Sober up, buddy. Wally Walls, first Hog Show. Charles Mason has it. Modern day Jack Tunney vibes from you. Looking forward. You're comparing me to On the Take Tunney? I don't know if I should be complimented or offended by this. Bobby Heenan used to say it all the time. On the Take Tunney. But see, Jack Tunney is the authority figure that I grew up on, so I will always have an affinity for Jack Tunney in that role. Even if he really never did all that much. I'm a lot more active than he was. I don't know, though, but these people, man, they keep pushing my buttons. I don't know, one of these days. One of these days, I don't know. Something's gonna happen. Something's gonna happen. Arabian Knight, hardest hitting person in wrestling, Gunther or Roosh? Roosh will beat the crap out of you, but I gotta, man, you know, I gotta go Gunther. Of those two, I gotta go Gunther. Juan says, the wannabe Solomonster, the wannabe Eric Bischoff of HOG. I am back. Hey, you know, Bischoff was a good Raw general manager. It's really the only good thing he did beyond his early NWO run in WCW. Solomonster is our new Jack Tunney. All right, so I think I have covered all of... Oh, we got another one. Just as I say that, we got another one. Hoffenheim says, we want Willie Mack, Commissioner Solo. You're better than Adam Pearce, and yes, it was a good party. Well, you'll be sad to hear, I already had Willie Mack in. We had Willie Mack in to challenge Jacob Fatu a few months ago for the World Championship. And he fell just short. They had a hell of a match. So, would love to have Willie back. But we just had him a few months ago. And Mr. Black, thank you for becoming a Sound-Off superstar. Welcome to the potty, pal. Good to have you. Keyshawn Johnson with the $9.99. Prime Taker versus Malachi Black. I think you mean Malachi Black. thought that said mariachi at first. Mariachi Black. Undertaker and Malachi Black is a dream match of mine. And what was your first thought when Taker debuted? And do you think looking at the size of that ham hock is an iconic call? Yes, it is. I still have that Roddy Piper call in my head. Look at the size of that ham hock. That was from Survivor Series 1990. My first thought, I was watching that pay-per-view live when it happened. I don't really remember having any sort of overwhelming reaction. I think it was more just like, who is this guy? You know, because I knew DiBiase was introducing a mystery partner. And obviously I didn't recognize him from his WCW run because I didn't watch WCW much at that time. So I think I might have just been indifferent. I wasn't scared by him or anything like that. I was old enough at that point to not be scared by bullshit like that. But it was probably an impressive sight, you know, big guy like that coming out. He looked like he hadn't slept in about 3 weeks. The bags under his eyes. I like that, though. Mariachi Black. That's a totally different gimmick. Totally different. But anyway, that covers the Super Chats. So thank you, guys. I appreciate that. The goal tonight for Be the Booker was 450. And we're almost there. We're almost at 650. It's pretty fucking cool. So thank you for that. And on that note, ask and you shall receive. Let's go ahead and do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to Be the Booker.
Someone says, I was old enough to be thinking of Sherry. No, I was old enough to be thinking of Elizabeth. That's who I was old enough to be thinking about. It is time to Be the Booker. This is the very first edition of Be the Booker here on a Collision stream. So this is kind of historic in a way. I want to make a good impression here. We got Forbidden Door coming up. I can't have Tony Khan out here showing me up as far as my booking goes. We begin with Big Daddy Cool. Look how cool this guy is. Diesel Power. Former WWE champion, WCW champion, Kevin Nash. It's going to be Big Daddy Cool going one-on-one with Bruiser Brody. There's a match for you. How about that? Kevin Nash as Diesel in his prime, taking on Bruiser Brody. The kind of match that Be the Booker was made for. Who would win that match? What would that clash of styles be like? With Bruiser Brody and Kevin Nash. It's a very interesting match. All right, let's go with the ladies now. See what we do on the ladies' side of Be the Booker. We begin. Oh, wait. Yeah. All right, let Bushwhacker Solomonster do his thing. It's Bertha Faye. It's Bertha Faye. This is not Rhonda Singh as Monster Ripper. This is Rhonda Singh and that awful Bertha Faye gimmick. More of that mid-90s WWF crap. Bertha Faye against Ty Conti. That is a definite buzzer. Ty Conti and Bertha Faye. The match that absolutely nobody asked for. Not a single person in the world asked for that match. All right, here we go. We need to save it with the tag teams. We have to save it. I'll tell you what we'll do, actually. We'll do, I'm going to do the stipulation for this one. I only dust off the stipulations for special occasions. Since it's the first Collision stream, we'll dust it off for the tag team match. Actually, you know what? Before I even do the tag team match, why don't we do the stipulation first? Let's pick the stipulation first. It's going to be a tag team lumberjack match. I fucking hate lumberjack matches. I hate lumberjack matches. I love these guys, though. All right, here we go. So we're going to pick two teams. It's going to be a tag team lumberjack match. We begin with the Twin Towers, Big Boss Man, and the African Dream, Akeem. I can't with this guy. He looks so happy. Akeem looks so happy. The Twin Towers are going to take on the Legion of Doom in a lumberjack match. LOD. Talk about a couple of badasses. There you go, right there. That's old school wrestling right there. Not a fan of the gimmick, but I give that match the bell. There you go. So Bertha Faye fucked us. Well, I should rephrase that. Bertha Faye fucked over Be the Booker tonight. We would have gone 3 for 3, but it was not meant to be. What are you going to do? Arabian Knight says, sucks that Jacob Fatu is signed until 2025. No new bloodline. You know, with this development in the bloodline story on Friday night, it really is a shame that Jacob Fatu is not able to go to WWE because, man, you want to prolong this bloodline story even longer? Now would be the perfect time, right? Or not even now. Not even now. But like when Solo goes. When Roman loses Solo and all appears hopeless for Roman Reigns, like, you know, the family truly is just irrevocably broken. In comes Jacob Fatu. Either to replace Solo, or you can bring him in now even, and basically bring him in. You get a 3-man bloodline going. He would really add, I think he would breathe even more new life into this story, and they could keep it going even longer. And so, yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame that he's not available for that. We got BCOM C clearly that Andrade Pios. I don't know what that means. Oh, Andre. What do you? I don't know what you're referring to. What that Andre POC surprised me a little bit. Oh, Pop. Okay. His very next super chat. It's a POC. I said. Person of color? Like, what are you talking about? He meant Pop. The Andrade. You're doing it too, by the way. You said Andre. It's Andrade. The Andrade Pop. Yeah, I don't know. He got a huge babyface reaction. I think it's just a matter of him not being around for so long. It was like, oh, we're happy to see you. You've been gone for so long. But yeah, it was a little surprising how strong of a babyface reaction he got. Juan Ocampo. Like Mussolini. The cult of meat with extra cheese. Well, we know what you're listening to. And Keyshawn Johnson, what matches went on second from the top that should have main evented and they learned their lesson at WrestleMania 26? Oh, I don't know. Second from the top? I know what the main events were at WrestleMania. I know what most of the opening matches were, but second to last, I have no idea. Usually there's a buffer. So like a women's match would typically, like in the past, it would be the second to last. So Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker, WrestleMania 25. I'm pretty sure that was like probably third or fourth maybe from last. I don't know. I'm not sure. But anyway, Juan says, thought of Heidenreich and Animal as a bootleg team in 2005. Yeah, that sucked. They're actually in Be the Booker, by the way. They are in the tag team Be the Booker. Mark says, let's bring in 12 more Samoans and let the bloodline continue. There's never going to ever be a shortage of Samoans in professional wrestling. So if you wanted to keep the bloodline going, the bloodline can go on infinitely. No, we're not getting two separate brand. Not officially. It's sort of unofficial. But there's no official roster split in AEW. Whatever happened to Heidenreich, I believe he left the business. Do you know who's making a comeback, though? Not in the ring, but he's actually opening up and doing, I think, a convention, and he's got an action figure now. I think he sat down with Mike Johnson at PW Insider for like a 3-hour shoot interview recently. I don't think it's out yet. Nails. The man who tried to choke Vince McMahon to death over a payoff backstage. And then pretty much was out of the... He had a quick run in WCW, and then he was out of the business after that. And he's pretty much stayed away from wrestling for like 20 years, and now Nails has resurfaced. Nails is back. Nails has been paroled, everybody. He has been paroled. He's now out, and he's making the convention circuit. Tarkham K. Rest. Other than the poor booking of Wardlow, is it time to get AEW... Or is it time to get a new finisher for him? Multiple power bombs to finish off a Luchasaurus is freaking dumb. Well, that's his thing, the Powerbomb Symphony. It works better with smaller opponents, I agree. I mean, I like the Powerbomb. Powerbomb's one of those basic moves I've always liked. I don't mind it, but it really is something that's better designed for people who are not as big as Luchasaurus. He can powerbomb them 3 or 4 times. Believe me, Wardlow has much bigger problems than what finishing maneuver he uses. I wouldn't be so worried about his finisher. I'd be more worried about other things. Nails went to he went to jail for strangling Vince. Is that where he's been this entire time? He's been serving his sentence for what he did to Vince. Now he's back for revenge. Hey, Nails may be our only savior. You want Vince out of the picture. He may be our last hope. Otherwise, he's not going anywhere. Yeah, can't get his revenge on the big boss, man, unfortunately. That is sad. All right, well, look, guys, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you for hanging out with me here on a Saturday night. This was certainly different. Tomorrow is episode 813 of the Solomonster Sounds Off. Going to be covering a lot of stuff. I'll have more thoughts on CM Punk as well, but including I'll be getting into some of the quotes from the ESPN story, which was not some big controversial thing like it was being made out to be. But there were some interesting comments in there. We'll talk about that. And just a ton of other stuff. Dark Side of the Ring, by the way, this week, very dark. On the Graham family. I'll have a full review on that episode. We'll talk NXT. Braun Breaker is going to be wrestling Seth Rollins this week for the for the World Heavyweight Championship on NXT. And MLW's lawsuit, big update on their lawsuit against WWE, media rights negotiations for WWE, big update on that. And how the mouse may be involved. Now they're talking about the mouse being involved. Oh boy. So we'll get into all that tomorrow. And then I will be live with you on Monday night for the Monday Night Raw review. That should be a very interesting show as well, with Seth Rollins issuing an open challenge for the World Heavyweight Championship and the return of everybody's favorite wrestler, Logan Paul, back on Raw Monday night. Until then, be well, stay safe, have a fantastic rest of your weekend. Keep an eye out for episode 813 tomorrow, and I will see you guys back here on Monday night for the Raw stream. Until then, take care, guys.